Hi everyone, this is Phil Travis, and this announcement is for U.S. History Part 1. It is week 6. I have dogs in here right now, so if they make sounds, there's a storm outside, and if they make sounds, it's because our golden retriever does not like storms. So she's hanging out here with me right now. Anyway, it's week 6. U.S. History Part 1. This week I think should be a fun week. There's no quiz this week. There's just the discussion forum this week. The reading is not coming from your textbook this week. The readings I have posted in modules for you. I'm calling this week Constitution Week. It should really be Constitution and Supreme Court Week. We are going to review the U.S. Constitution, and we are also going to look at a PDF, about 6 pages, that summarizes some of the most important Supreme Court decisions in the history of the United States. We are then going to discuss some of the important powers allocated in the Constitution, the degree to which those powers may or may not be interpreted. We are going to look at Supreme Court decisions, and we're going to consider how those Supreme Court decisions have shaped the United States in the years following those decisions, and how significant both the Constitution and the rulings of the Supreme Court are to the United States in terms of how American society and government is organized. So it's Constitution Week. We're going to be reading the Constitution. We're going to be looking at Supreme Court decisions. We're going to be discussing them in our weekly discussion forum. As always, same rules apply, except this week we have a slight variation. This week you'll make 2 posts and 1 reply starting Thursday, 2 separate days of activity. Whereas usually the discussion forum you have 1 post, 2 replies. In this case it's 2 posts, 1 reply. And reply as much as you want, because these actually are topics I think we're probably all very interested in. The issue of the Constitution. What powers does the Constitution grant? Is almost like a continual conversation that the United States has today. It was having right at the very beginning with the founding of the first presidency of George Washington. The importance of the Supreme Court in interpreting the Constitution and in that sense shaping the country as well. Very, very significant present-day conversations. So hopefully everybody has a really robust and interesting, respectful, and fun discussion this week. Okay, I'm gonna leave it at that. There's no test, no quiz, or anything like that. We had a test, we had a paper optional. You didn't have to do the first paper, of course. We had those things, and so this week I thought we'd do more of a fun week that didn't involve a quiz or a paper or a test, but rather just some fun discussion on a topic that I think we're probably all going to be kind of interested in. I also included a 30-minute documentary film. You know, and it's not my most exciting documentary film, but it's very informative. And it's about the Constitution. So if you watch that, it'll really help you in the discussion for this week. Here's the factoid for this week. The Supreme Court was shaped more than by one person more than any other person. The Supreme Court was really shaped by John Marshall. And John Marshall was actually the cousin of Thomas Jefferson. And he was Chief Justice of the Supreme Court at the same time that Jefferson was president, and he remained Chief Justice of the Supreme Court for many years after that. John Marshall, the cousin of Thomas Jefferson, is associated with some of the most important Supreme Court decisions. Decisions like Marbury versus Madison. And the interesting thing about it is Marshall was a Federalist. He was a member of the Federalist Party. That's the party of George Washington, of John Adams. And the interesting thing about it, as we had 2 parties develop in the United States, you had the Federalists, and they were more in favor of a stronger central government. And you had the Jeffersonian Democratic Republicans, the roots of the Democratic Party, basically. And they were at that time more small government, more in favor of states' rights, that kind of thing, for that particular era. They were generally less Federalist in terms of their belief in the power of the federal government. They believed in a smaller government, and Federalists tended to believe that the Constitution implied more powers than the Jeffersonian Democratic Republicans believed. Well, with the end of John Adams' presidency, the Federalist Party, in terms of its role in the presidency, basically ended. There was never another Federalist president after the second president, John Adams, left office and was replaced by Thomas Jefferson. However, John Marshall became the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And in becoming Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, John Marshall was able, over the next really decades, to make decisions and shape and turn the country in a way that was probably, in certain respects, more consistent with Federalist ideas because of his power, so the court's power, to interpret the Constitution. And through those interpretations, to uphold or not very important legal issues in the country. And so the factoid is John Marshall, the cousin of Thomas Jefferson. That was a big lightning boom. I'm not sure if you could hear that in the video, but that was lightning. But anyway, John Marshall, factoid, John Marshall, cousin of Thomas Jefferson, had a pretty different political outlook than Thomas Jefferson, and was able to sort of, in a way, steer the country, to a certain respect, in a more Federalist route, despite the fact that the Federalist Party would never again have the presidency, because John Marshall was himself a Federalist. And so that really speaks to the importance of the Supreme Court in terms of directing and shaping the United States, regardless of the political party that the presidency represents. So John Marshall, cousin of Thomas Jefferson, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, and as a Federalist, highly influential in the early shaping of the United States. All right, everyone, let's have a great week. Email me if you have any questions. Should be a fun discussion this week. So email me if you have any questions, and let's have a great week.